Several years ago, Elder L. Tom Perry and I were on an assignment together in New York City. And while there, we visited a historic synagogue in Brooklyn. The synagogue was a stately building in a neighborhood that had been and probably still was one of the more upscale sections of the borough. The woman who served as rabbi of the Jewish Reform congregation there greeted us cordially and showed us through the historic building. In its prime, it had been an elegant structure, but it was now clearly in need of significant repairs. The rabbi told us that her congregation had declined in numbers and that funds to maintain the synagogue and its programs, including a day school, were inadequate. As we chatted further, she noted that, generally speaking, young adults were committed to their Jewish heritage, but for whatever reason, they were reluctant to join and become committed members of the synagogue. Despite that, they routinely scheduled the building for social activities. It was something of a gathering place for them, and periodically they would make donations to help cover the costs of using the facilities. But few wanted or were willing to become part of the congregation, members of the congregation that worshiped there. Elder Perry and I discussed with the rabbi why this might be so. She noted from her conversations with many of these young adults, most of them single, that they didn't put a high priority on religion in their lives. Others simply didn't want to make a commitment to this or any synagogue. Elder Perry wondered if it was a manifestation of the famous or infamous FOMO, fear of missing out, that if they committed to this, they might miss out on something else. And this is essentially the subject I'd like to talk to you about this evening: choice and commitment. Let's observe, starting out, that fear of missing out is, up to a point, a quite rational feeling. Insofar as possible, we all want to experience the best things and reach for the best options in any aspect of life. But to delay seemingly forever making a choice or a commitment because it might mean missing out on something else possibly better is not rational. Every choice forecloses other possibilities. If you choose to work or go to school in the morning, you can't stream a movie on Netflix at the same time. Or can you? If you go to school and major in civil engineering or whatever, you'll miss majoring in history or art or anything else, unless you never leave school. If you travel to Victoria Falls in Africa now, you cannot travel anywhere else at the same moment and may miss other places you might want to visit. If you choose to serve a mission, you give up many social activities for that time, and so it goes. But unless you make a choice and commit to a certain direction, your life will be pretty erratic. And in the end, you will, in fact, miss out on most of the very best things. As my wife observes from time to time, you can't have everything. Where would you put it? We can't have everything that it would be nice to have. We can't do everything that it would be nice or interesting to do. Even if you restrict your choices only to things that are of good report or praiseworthy, you still cannot have or experience everything. There's simply not enough time or means or space in any one life in mortality. And so we must commit to particular choices, knowing that by so doing we necessarily forego others, good though they may be. We should also bear in mind that unduly delaying a choice can itself constitute a choice. Marriage is a prime example. By choosing one partner, we forego all others. The Lord says, "Thou shalt love thy wife with all thy heart, and shalt cleave unto her, and none else." Because of the finality of the choice. Some resist a commitment to someone they're very fond of, someone they love, with whom they could progress happily and eternally, worried that there may be an even more perfect soulmate somewhere that they wouldn't want to miss. I remember one such young man years ago in my acquaintance who rejected a wonderful potential partner because he thought she had too many dental fillings. My reaction was, you want a perfection that does not exist. And by the way, have you stopped to think you're nowhere near being a perfect choice yourself? This is a gathering of young adults. And for most of you, the emphasis is on adult. You have or are pursuing adult responsibilities, adult achievements, and adult contributions, as opposed to delaying adulthood and pursuing the perpetual party. 10 years ago, author and scholar Charles Murray spoke about the meaning of a life well lived. He said, "I'm talking about the kinds of things that we look back upon when we reach old age and that let us decide that we can be proud of who we've been and what we've done." Murray recalled speaking to an audience in Zurich about the deep satisfactions that come from a life well lived. He said, after the speech, a few of the 20-something members of the audience approached and said plainly that the phrase, "a life well lived," did not have meaning for them. They were having a great time with their current sex partner, the new BMW, and the vacation home in Mallorca, and saw no voids in their lives that needed filling. It was fascinating, said Murray, to hear it said to my face, but not surprising. That mentality goes something like this. Human beings are a collection of chemicals that activate and after a period of time deactivate. The purpose of life is to while away the intervening time as pleasantly as possible. At the end of his remarks, Murray made this perceptive statement. Age-old human wisdom has understood that a life well lived requires engagement with those around us. True adults understand this. They recognize that personal pleasure never works as the focus of life and cannot suffice as the purpose of life. This truth underlies the two great commandments, to love God with all one's heart, soul, and mind, and one's neighbor as oneself. As Jesus said, on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.